Peace, family. Chauncey, aka you Karima, great man at God Media, right back at you again with another GMOGMedia Spotlight. All right, family. First of all, I just found out literally 5 minutes ago that Prince just died. He died at age 57. He has transitioned. He is a legend. So I just want to say rest in peace to Prince, a legendary musician. And, it's tragic news in the music industry. He was one of the guys I actually wanted to see perform at next year's Jazz in the Gardens. But definitely rest in peace to Prince. He's a legend. And, his memory will always live on through his music. All right, so, definitely rest in peace. So moving on, family. Basically, the topic of conversation I'm talking about today, as you can see by the title, is self-preservation. And I'm going to tie in 3 subjects or 3 headliners that happened this week with the topic of conversation that I'm talking about right now, self-preservation. And just to break down what I'm talking about as far as self-preservation, I mean self-preservation, preserving who you are and who your people are collectively as a group. All right, so again, if you're new to the channel, my channel GMOGMediaTV is about counter racism. I try to discuss and make suggestions on things of eradicating and eliminating racism, institutionalized racism, global racism. Okay, I offer suggestions, and I try to offer suggestions, and hopefully those suggestions come into solutions based off what you guys do from my suggestions, or if you have any suggestions that you want to share, go for it, for sure. But this channel is about counter racism and ways to replace racism with the system of justice. All right, so self-preservation, basically what I'm talking about today is preserving who you are as a people, and having one common goal that you want to come see to fruition, which is replacing systematic racism and replacing that with the system of justice. All right. So a lot of things have happened this week with recent news events. The first thing I want to talk about that happened this week is the news out of New York. A lot of people have heard about this story. Some of you may have not heard about the story, but this is about the police officer who is Asian American. His name is Peter Luang, and he was an NYPD police officer. Back in November 20th, 2014, he shot and killed a black man by the name of Akai Gurley out of New York. Okay. The trial just basically completed, and he basically walked. He was only sentenced to 5 years probation. So basically, I'm not surprised by that. Again, we live in a system of racism, white supremacy. This is what my channel talks about. Okay, racism is dominated by racism. White supremacy is dominated in all 9 areas of activity. That's economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, sex, religion, and war. All right. So they dominate all 9 areas of activity, and this is no surprise to me at all. You have people in our communities, such as a Michael Vick, who gets convicted for killing dogs and serves jail time. So you can definitely kill a black man in America, serve no jail time. Like I said, it's no surprising at all. It's basically a legalized murder. That's what it is. You're in a system that's definitely corrupt. You're in a system that is entrenched with racism. It's basically built on racism. And you're behind that system, even though he's no longer working for that particular force. He's still a part of that system, or was a part of that system. And even the DA, I believe, who was a part of that case in New York, was black, if I'm not mistaken. He's a part of that system. So the system itself, again, needs to be replaced, needs to be eradicated with the true system of justice. So basically, real quick, family, I want to play a clip from Democracy Now! With some interesting guests. One of the guests was the aunt of Akai Gurley, and another person who is a part of an Asian group who was talking about racism, white supremacy, and another person who is a supporter of Peter Liang and felt that the sentencing or the outcome of Peter Liang was justified. So I'm going to play this clip and give my thoughts after the clip.
Being used as a scapegoat. A scapegoat is someone who doesn't do anything wrong or didn't do anything wrong. And in this case, he did do something wrong. He killed Akai Gurley, and he needs to be punished for that. Not just held accountable, he needs to be punished and serve jail time. And from the beginning, we've said this case means that we need to stand united to hold white officers accountable. What about the district attorneys like Don Donovan, who didn't indict Dan Pantaleo for the murder of Eric Gardner? We need to make sure that DAs are doing their job across the city. We want a special prosecutor in New York State to investigate all the killings in New York State. And this is the testament to how our communities can come together to address something larger. We will never know as Asian Americans what it's like to lose a life every 28 hours, like the Black community does in the United States. And what I do want to raise is that when we talk about structural racism, white supremacy, and anti-Blackness, we have to admit that Asian Americans are complicit and complacent to uphold white supremacy. And we are responsible in making sure that we stand together with Black communities to bring down white supremacy and structural racism. That's the only way to win for all of us. All of our lives will matter when Black lives matter.
I wouldn't agree that Asians are complicit with white supremacy. I mean, Asian Americans have been victims of the system as well, not to the extent that the African American community has faced injustices, but we have faced injustices ever since Asian Americans first got to this country. As for Peter Liang being a scapegoat, he is a scapegoat. A scapegoat is not somebody who is totally innocent. A scapegoat is somebody who's being blamed for far more than he's actually being guilty of. Peter Liang has been indicted, has been convicted, has been sentenced. He will carry out this sentence, and he will be tagged as a convicted felon for the rest of his life. He is being held accountable. The question is, to what extent do you have to hold this one officer accountable who did discharge his gun in an accidental situation in a darkened stairwell? There was no confrontation, unlike all of the other cases where an innocent person was killed by the police. And so, this is very different from all the other cases. I've spoken with many people. This is definitely a case that is much less satisfying. And Hortensia, I mean, I understand the emotions that you and your family have gone through, but you have repeatedly called him a murderer.
He is a murderer. If someone lied to you, they're labeled as a liar. If someone steals, they're labeled as a thief. If someone takes an innocent life, if someone kills someone, they're a murderer, a killer, a murderer. Either way you put it, no matter how you want to sugarcoat it, in my reality, in my world that I live in on a daily basis, where I have to make sure that my grandson, my sons, and my daughters, every morning I have to tell them, please check in with me. You understand? My reality is I can get a phone call, Miss Peterson, come to the hospital. Miss Peterson, you have to go to the morgue. This is my reality. What's your reality?
All right, family, so let me just share my thoughts with the clip you just saw. So, my opinion is this, okay? Peter Liang was completely negligent, okay? There was no reason for you to have your weapon drawn, whatever the case may be, okay? You walked into a building, was scared, you drawn your weapon, you had your finger on the trigger, okay? You had your finger on the trigger and you were waiting to shoot someone. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? So to say that, there was no struggle or, and it was an accident, your intent was to shoot, okay? when you pick up a gun, when you pick up a firearm, and your finger is on the trigger, are you trying to hug somebody? You trying to shake someone's hand? No, your intent is to shoot someone, right? That's your intent. So again, you walked in a situation where you were not comfortable and you had your weapon drawn. So you were completely inept in terms of your police duties, and you were negligible as far as the outcome of the situation, because one black man is killed because you shot him in fear. And this is another thing that these police officers like to say all the time: my life was in danger. That's such a cold word, because they can get away with that term, life was in danger, when they are the ones carrying the firearms. 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to say that high, but it's on average. Most of the time, our people are carrying no weapons. We are unarmed. But yet we are getting killed on the streets, left and right. And they are an equal opportunist type of unjustified murderers when it comes to black people, because they can kill men, women, and children. Again, that's my opinion, family. Whether you disagree with it or not, I'm just sharing my thoughts and my opinion. But let me know how you feel about this first segment, this first video about Akai Gurley being killed and murdered, and Peter Liang only receiving probation for his murder charge. All right, so moving on with the next topic at hand. Again, I'm talking about self-preservation and the fact that black people need to come together with an agenda, a thorough agenda, a code system to help eliminate and eradicate racism, white supremacy. All right, so the next topic I want to talk about is the new $20 bill. Okay, I'm gonna post B-roll footage of the $20 bill, and we basically have quote unquote progressed from Andrew Jackson, our former U.S. president, who was a slave owner of up to 150 slaves. And we moved on from Andrew Jackson to Harriet Tubman. Obviously, she's legendary, abolitionist who, basically rebelled against slavery. Her and Frederick Douglass, both very, very monumental people in terms of the abolitionist movement. But people seem to see that as progress. Going from a slave owner to a slave abolitionist. Someone who was a former slave who helped slaves escape. That is a lateral movement. This basically saying it's going from left to right or right to left. Progress is, seeing gradual systematic change. That was not gradual systematic change. That was basically a symbolic victory, in my opinion. So, no, that's not progress. A black person is on a $20 bill. A black president who does nothing for black people collectively as a group. So that's just my opinion, family. I mean, that's just how I feel. And, there's no progress in that at all whatsoever. I definitely appreciate, like I said, Harriet Tubman, the abolitionist movement, Frederick Douglass, but putting her on the $20 bill, I guess, is great in the sense of being symbolic, but it does nothing collectively for us as a group to help eliminate and eradicate systematic racism in this country and around the world. So, we have a long way to go before we see some sort of progress, some real systemic, tangible progress. All right. And I'm going to go back to also the Akai Gurley, Peter Lang situation. I didn't play the clip where the quote unquote Peter Liang supporter, he mentioned that, well, you know, Asian people, we experience racism too. You know, I'm basically paraphrasing what he was saying in the clip, but he was saying that we don't experience the same kind of oppression that black people do, but we do experience it, right? I want to add to that by saying the Asian community, you guys received reparations. For us, black people, if we receive reparations, which is the real reason why Martin Luther King was killed, is because of reparations. When he talked about economic liberation and receiving our check in terms of the 400 years of just involuntary servitude or slavery in the backs of North America for free, which is free labor basically. That was the real reason why Martin Luther King was killed. But just to stay on topic, if we receive reparations, that is progress. That's part of the puzzle. If we receive some form of reparations. All right, family. So, moving on with the topic at hand, self-preservation. A lot of you may or may not know who follow the quote-unquote conscious community and what's going on with, with conscious people in the community. But recently it was announced that Brother Polight and Tommy Sotomayor will be debating this upcoming summer, I believe in August. I'll have the flyer and the B-roll footage that you guys can see. It was posted on Brother Polight's Instagram. But basically, they're going to be debating, Tommy Sotomayor and Brother Polight will be debating. The subject matter is the black woman on trial. Now, yes, I'm familiar with Brother Polight and Tommy Sotomayor. I do watch their videos from time to time. I think they're very entertaining at times. A lot of the stuff I don't agree with. Some of the stuff both these brothers are saying are just outrageous, but I will watch the debate. My thoughts for that debate, the topic at hand is interesting. I would say it needs to be talked about, the black woman on trial. But the thing is for me is that we have to talk about why the black woman is on trial. If you go back and watch my video that I did earlier last year entitled Why the Black Family Structure is on Life Support, I break down historically why the black family structure, black family meaning man, woman, and child, and why the ever decreasing amount of black families and children being raised in broken homes have always decreased in dramatic numbers year to year to year to year to year to year. All right, go back and watch that video. I break that down and I talk about historically why that's happening. Okay, but as far as my 2 cents on that debate, that's a topic that needs to be touched upon. Hopefully they do. But the reason why I wanted to talk about that debate is because as far as the black woman being on trial and things of that nature, the topic at hand is self-preservation that I'm talking about. Okay? We as a group, collectively, black people speaking, we as a group, we don't have an agenda. Everyone collectively as a group follows different ideologies, have different belief systems, etc., etc. So we are not a monolithic group. We have just basically have different ideologies and things of that nature. And that's what makes it harder for us to come to a conclusion on ending racism, because we have so many different schools of thoughts that our people follow. Okay? So the black woman being on trial goes back to racism. The system that is in place, that was created by the dominant society to set that up, made the black woman and made the black family who they are today. Now, a lot of you guys will say, and this is, I'm going to hurt some people's feelings with this, because I try to be as real as possible on my channel. You know, the whole black on black crime thing, and the whole, you know, we got to protect ourselves and we got to work on ourselves. You know, that is a white supremacist talking point. They always like to bring up those particular talking points that are misnomers. Okay? You have to talk about the system that is controlled by the powers that be. The system that is controlled by people who are non-black. That's what you have to talk about. So until we fix that problem, we will always going to have situations where we're going to talk about the black woman on trial, the black family on trial, the black man on trial, things of that nature, because we have a perpetual loop of racism in this country and around the world. All right, family. So yeah, I basically want to talk about self-preservation and how we need to come together as a group collectively, have an ideology, a code of conduct, a system in place where we can follow and help eliminate racism in this country and around the world. All right. I just saw a video with Malik Zulu Sabaj, who is doing a, I believe it's a lecture tour or something like that. It's more of like a conference, I should say. It's a conference where all the black leaders, or quote unquote leaders, and people of the Marcus Garvey movement, comedic science, you know, all kinds of historians and scholars are doing a conference which is basically talking about not voting, which is, if you watch my last video, I talked about I'm not going to vote, because whether it be Hillary, whether it be Donald Trump, those guys are not going to do anything for black people, or, you know, anything in general for us, period. So I'm not, like I said in my last video, I'm not voting and will not vote. So it's up to us to help ourselves, which is why I'm talking about self-preservation. We have to help ourselves. We have to protect ourselves. And you gotta, you know, as far as helping ourselves, non-black people watching this video, if you're watching this video and you want to end racism, you want to fight racism, and you want to offer suggestions on replacing racism with a system of justice, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. So yeah, I mean, fighting racism is number one thing. It's the number one thing that is affecting black people around the world. Okay, it is a system that is in place that is detrimental to our well-being, and that's something that we have to collectively as a group eradicate. All right, family. So that concludes GMOG Media Spotlight. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. All right, I will be presenting consistent content on a weekly basis. All right, family. So make sure you not only subscribe, but hit that bell to get notifications on when my next video will be uploaded, so that you can watch it, share it, and also make some suggestions on how we can end racism collectively as a group. All right, family. Chauncey, aka you Karima, great man of God Media, signing out.